Welcome back. You're watching On the Record with me, Shereen Bhan, and we continue to be in conversation with Ashok Vaswani at Kotak Mahindra Bank. Mr. Vaswani, I want to go back again to the issue as far as CASA is concerned and this chase for CASA that everyone seems to be focused on at this point in time. I mean, how are you looking at this, and does it, at least in the near term, change the bank's strategy in any fashion?
No, in fact, we've strengthened the whole deposit strategy, and obviously CASA plays a very important role. And frankly, if you go after a type of customer with a proposition, the customer is going to give you a bunch of money in savings and current, may put instead of TD into capital markets. So frankly, it's not a huge change from what we're doing. If anything, it's strengthening what we were always doing.
What's the outlook then as far as NIMs are concerned and as far as the net interest margin goes? Because you've actually seen margins coming down to an 8-quarter low. Is that now likely to be the steady run rate in the near future, or do you...
Yeah, I mean, that's more going to be driven by repo rates and stuff like that. And, if repo rates come down, there'll be some amount which will be offset by pricing, but the others will kind of flow through. So that is more linked to that as opposed to a change in fundamental deposit strategy.
On rates itself, we've seen what the Fed has finally decided to do and move with a 50 basis point cut, which is on the higher side of what the expectation was. What are you expecting here on the back of what the Fed has done, as well as where we currently stand now on inflation?
Yeah. So if you talk to our in-house economists, they would tell you that they would expect some level of rate cuts, which kind of makes sense because I think the economy is generally speaking in a good shape. Inflation is coming down and things are going down. The RBI has always managed its economy very, very well, and I think they'll continue to do so. So you should, I think we, at least in-house, have an expectation that rates will come down gradually, starting maybe December.
25 basis point
25
cut?
basis points kind of cut is what our economists are predicting.
Yes, with that disclaimer on the table. But as far as the economy goes, what do you find most confidence in? I mean, you were talking about various cylinders and engines that you're going to be focused on within the group. But from an overarching India story perspective, what gives you most confidence today?
Look, the economy has been growing at 6, 7, 8 kind of percent. Right, and with everything that's going into it, it's reasonable to assume, unless there's something which is completely out of the blue, it's reasonable to expect the economy continues to grow at 7.5, 8 kind of percent, and that is incredible growth. It's clearly a kind of outlier. It's clearly a bright spot amongst the world economies. That kind of economic growth obviously is great for financial services, because financial services tend to grow somewhere between 1.5 to 2 times economic growth.
Let me end by asking you, because you also did a stint with an AI fintech company, and today that's the buzzword. It's almost like this magic wand that everyone is using to drive up valuations, at least at this point in time. But the impact, especially on the banking sector, especially on jobs, I mean, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the next 5 years? Are we talking about the next 10 years? When do you see it making a real impact?
So I'm totally convinced it'll have a big impact. I'm totally convinced of that. Typically what happens is you overestimate the short term and you underestimate the long term. And I think that will play out in the case of AI as well. Will it transform things? It will definitely transform things. I mean, think of this as on the scale of the Industrial Revolution or the Internet Revolution, quite a significant impact. It's impossible to predict exact timings, but this thing is big. I'm convinced.
It's real and it's big.
It's real, it's big, can't predict timing.
But you haven't started work on it just yet, as far as the
We started putting thoughts together, where it could apply and stuff like that. But can I showcase something to you right now? No. On Yes Bank specifically, because again, there's a lot of speculation on what is going to happen. You've got a 1.2% stake in the bank as well. Has there been any indication from the Reserve Bank on, collectively offloading stake, or Shereen, you talk to everybody. You should be answering that question for me.
Have you been asked for an opinion, or is there a plan that's being put in place?
I've heard whatever, frankly, is in the press. I have not been asked for my opinion on that one.
Is there a plan on what you intend to do?
Whatever the press says.
Okay, whatever the press says. So let me end then by asking, we're almost at the end of this calendar year, and as we head into the next financial year, the single biggest priority, and you can't say customer centricity.
Deliver on my plan.
Ashok Vaswani, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank
we wish you the very
thank
best
you.
of luck, and thank you very much for joining us on CNBC-TV18.
Thank you so much.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of On the Record. We will take a break here and return with more on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned.